This week on the podcast, we're going to be taking a closer look at a short, schlumpy, slovenly, and somewhat scruffy TV detective with a glass eye and the name of Columbo, and how his style of solving murders via close observation mirrors the way artists notice their own worlds and transform them into art. Let's dive in. You are listening to Peps Talks for Artists, a podcast offering small words of encouragement to all those shuffling along the artist's road. I'm your host, Amy Toledo. Do you remember last year, during those long pandemic days and nights, how people were binging TV shows like The Sopranos or Mad Men? Well, I was also binging, but I was gorging on that old television chestnut, Columbo. If you've never watched it, Columbo is a detective murder mystery type of show, but it's an anti-whodunit. Here's the kicker. The show is always open with all of us witnessing the crime, but always off camera, which those of us who are squeamish appreciate. We know from the get-go who the killer is, right away. Peter Falk stars as Columbo, and the audience watches as he casually but cunningly notices clues, makes connections, and solves the case, all the while annoying and pestering the murderer to distraction.
Oh, just one more thing, sir.
The villain underestimates Columbo at first because he seems a bit scatterbrained and befuddled. In essence, benign. But under that tattered old gray floppy coat lies the heart of a chess mastermind. A calm and friendly genius, casually moving all of the pieces on the board until you're shocked to learn he's placed you in checkmate using only a pawn. Columbo notices everything. Was there a contact lens glinting in that green shag carpet? And yes, that aging movie star from the golden age of cinema was spry enough to climb down a tree from a second-story window and disturb a single flower. Shout out to the great Janet Leigh. It's these hidden yet powerful powers of noticing that carry him through each episode to solve the case. Always, of course, with a humble wave and a crooked, self-effacing smile. The book Wired to Create by Scott Barry Kaufman and Carolyn Gregoire tells us that artists have leaky brains and low filters that make us particularly open to experience. Artists, more than non-artists, filter less of our environment out as we go about our daily lives. A non-artist might, for example, pop over to the cafe for a morning coffee, and because their brain files this under mundane task, nothing in particular is noticed. The filter in their brain is functioning perfectly, if you aren't an artist. They enjoy the coffee and move on. That's that. End scene. An artist, on the other hand, has a brain that does not filter out or classify things as mundane as ruthlessly. Our brains have the ability to see the world as new and sparkly, even while doing the most ordinary thing for the umpteenth time. One fall day, a non-artist and an artist both visit the same pet food store. The non-artist picks up a case of kibble, and off they go, that moment easily forgotten, as a no need to remember this event. The artist, in contrast, will perform the same kibble-buying activity, maybe even add some treats because we are a soft-hearted people. But our brains won't filter out the experience as mundane. We have the ability to see the world in a fresh light, no matter what we're doing. The artist might notice the white, shimmering, circular reflection of a hubcap on the pavement in the parking lot, or the strange, dingy rubber ducky that dangles from a string under the awning, forgotten, getting dingier every day. In Wired to Create, Kaufman and Gregoire tell us about a study done by Barnaby Nelson and David Rawling, with 100 artists in music, visual arts, theater, and literature, to find out if creative people were more, quote, open to experience. They go on to define openness to experience as, quote, the drive for cognitive exploration of one's inner and outer worlds, and say that it is the single strongest and most consistent personality trait that predicts creative achievement. Open to experience types tend to be imaginative, curious, perceptive, creative, artistic, thoughtful, and intellectual. The unique ability of creative brains to not pre-categorize incoming sensory information as irrelevant is kind of a superpower. Quote, reduce latent inhibition, or for our purposes, let's call it noticiness, is a characteristic of a person whose brain allows a higher level of information to enter their field of awareness. You notice more because you're more curious, imaginative, and perceptive. And you're more curious, imaginative, and perceptive because you notice more. Our creative brains are leaky. They take in a lot and cross-link a wide variety of seemingly disparate things, allowing for more unpredictable connections and ideas. So let's visit Columbo again.
Just one more thing, sir. Yes, Lieutenant.
He's puffing on a cigar that is a disturbing shade of green, and carrying an old basset hound like a sack of potatoes and plopping him down in a murderer's yard. He's playing it cool with a revenge-mad gangster's widow and staging fake funerals to bust her and her poisoned lemon marmalade. He's noticing 1,000 times the things that everyone else around him is noticing, including the criminal. She's quickly off to prison for attempted murder by breakfast spread.
I hate to bother you. Could I borrow a dime? A dime? A dime, sir.
As we go through our day, it's important to honor our noticiness when we experience it. Let your inner Columbo out to find the clues that will lead to new pathways for your work. Maybe you're driving your kid to school, or you're headed to the grocery store. Look out for those moments. Subtle little nudges from your subconscious that are so easy to ignore if we have our filter set to high. Train yourself to notice what you notice, and then follow through and give that little a chance.
Oh, one more thing, sir. We got something else on the gun. Did I mention that?
No, you didn't. What, Lieutenant?
A thread, sir.
In the spirit of Columbo, I'll leave you with just one more thing. In Wired to Create, the authors detail a famous 2007 social experiment conducted by Gene Weingarten of the Washington Post. An average-looking guy in a baseball cap and white t-shirt sat up next to a trash can in the Washington, D.C. subway and began playing his violin. Little did the thousands of people passing by without a second glance know, but this humble subway busker was none other than the famous musician Joshua Bell, playing one of the most difficult violin pieces in the world, Bach's Chaconne, on a $3.5 million Stradivarius. A hidden camera recorded that only 7 people stopped to listen. However, the camera also revealed that every single child who passed by stopped to watch Bell perform. Earlier that week, audiences had paid $100 to hear him play at a sold-out concert in Boston. Those 7 people and all the kids were us. We are the people who walk through a world of magic every day, bemused that everyone else is too busy or closed off to notice. Stay noticey, my friends. You've been listening to Pep Talks for Artists. If you'd like to check out our Instagram, please find us at Pep Talks for Artists. We really appreciate you stopping by, and we'll see you next time. Special thanks to Jennifer Coates for her contributions, and to Frank Bango with Sincerity Incorporated for his help making this episode.